Hey, thanks for checking us out. This is Sports and Other Stuff. You can find us on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. We have a new episode every week. We have more than 100 in the can, so check it out. Thanks for being a part of it. Just subscribe. Thanks a million.
T-Dog, J-Boy, and me, I'm Lugs. Our pride and joy is pumping our mugs. Be careful, kids, it could get rough. We're flipping our lids on sports and other stuff.
Welcome to Sport Weasel Central. I'm Lugs.
I'm J-Boy.
And I'm T-Dog.
That's right. Welcome back to Sports and Other Stuff. So, guys, did you know Tiger Woods played this weekend in the Masters? No, we didn't know that. We'll talk about it. Top NFL draft picks for quarterbacks, running backs. We have some ideas for that. And in the other stuff department, our crack team has come up with a snack munch madness bracket. Yes, the best snack, treat, finger food, cracker, chip, whatever you want to play and eat and watch a game by. So, Lugs, T-Dog, good to see you, boys. So here's some little bit of news here. According to CBS, the final round of the 2022 Masters was the most watched golf telecast of any network since the 2019 Masters, when Tiger famously won his fifth green jacket. So, Lugs, everybody was talking about El Tigre. I guess we should too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's rare in sports that you get a figure that has that kind of charisma. I mean, you probably would have to go back to maybe Ali, because in the sports world, Tiger is the guy. And that really, he changed it, because used to be golfers were just these big old lugs. I mean, I remember a guy named Greg Stadler. He looked like a butcher that just happened to find a club.
Nicknamed the Walrus, right? The Walrus,
yeah.
Yes.
So he changed it, but his natural charisma, I think the PGA is desperate to replicate that, because tell me who won this weekend. The guy who won, I can't remember his name, but he just looked like an accountant to me. There was no like pizzazz. So Tiger needs to be there for the PGA no matter what.
Scotty Scheffler, to answer your question. But part two, so he transcends sports, right? I mean, he's bigger than the game.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's weird to say, because you nailed Ali is bigger than boxing. That's the thing is I know some people would say Jordan is bigger than the NBA. And it's not that he isn't that successful. I think it's weird that certain entities are strong enough that even like as strong as Jordan is, he didn't eclipse the NBA. I don't think. I'm not saying I'm wrong on that. Or even like Tom Brady. Tom Brady's definitely the most successful quarterback in the history of the NFL, but he hasn't transcended the NFL, because the NFL by itself is such a large entity. Obviously this goes back a ways. Even Wayne Gretzky, as successful as he was, he didn't really transcend, I don't think, the NHL. But Tiger has. Tiger, it's funny because you all probably heard some people, not a lot of people, and I think most people understand, like, I mean, some of these players must be bad that Tiger's coming back because, they don't get any love or anything. No, they love it. I mean, any guy that draws eyeballs, brings up attendance, obviously some of that money will get pushed back to the people winning. And again, this is not a shot at Tiger. Obviously, Tiger has a long way to get back if he ever is going to really contend. So a lot of that money is going in other people's pockets. So they are more than ecstatic for Tiger to come back. Yeah, anyone who's involved in the tour.
48 years old just now. Okay, let me go back to another name. Did he transcend baseball? Babe Ruth transcended, I mean, before all of everybody's time, but, it was the headline guy, the big name across the nation, or somebody like that.
But I think what happens is you're talking a lot of team sports, whereas golf is a guy, course, ball, club. I mean, it's right there. You watch him either
Good point.
transcend or blow up. I mean, So I think that since they are so isolated and the camera is on them for hours, I think they are more locked in.
And it's the only sport, isn't it, where you hit a ball that's not been hit. You're hitting a motionless ball from by yourself, like you said.
It's all up to you.
I'm not saying that she has, but I would say you can make a case for Serena Williams.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because of how dominant she is. Obviously, she does have a charisma. Obviously, there's been some very dominant men in tennis recently, but again, they don't have that kind of like. I think Lugs really identified. Like Tiger does have like a presence, an aura that makes him fascinating to watch. And again, there have been a lot of dominant male tennis players, but for whatever reason, they haven't caught at least the American imagination. Let's put it that way.
Well, I do know when my in-laws, back about 10 years ago when Tiger was a youngster, they would sit and watch Sunday golf and they were in their 80s and they'd never watched a frame of golf before in their lives. So maybe you're onto something there. Let's hope he stays healthy, gets better. I think he was wobbly a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, next topic, NFL. So SI.com writes, unlike the past couple of drafts, with Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence locking in at the top number one pick, a lack of consensus on the draft's QB1 this year adds a little extra intrigue, as some would say. What do you say about that? Who's it going to be?
Well, I think it's a toss-up. I would say probably Kenny Pickett, but I wouldn't commit to that. I wouldn't bet money on it. My dark horse in that race, though, is Matt Corral. I think of all of the guys that are around right now that are going to be in the draft, I like Matt Corral, even though he's not as big as some of the quarterbacks in the past.
You're going with your SEC nod on that, are you? Per usual?
Yeah, I would say yep.
Not your Sam Howell from North Carolina? You didn't count in your local guy?
I guess this year wasn't his year, but Carolina graduated a lot of skill players, so he didn't have quite the team around him.
Actually, to be fair to Lugs, I wouldn't. I have Matt Corral as my favorite quarterback from this draft class too. Just watching him, he has. I mean, of the top, I watched all top three. I think they're all good. I think, and again, I get that maybe they're not loved and look to be like a Joe Burrow or a Herbert, but they all seem like they could be very good. Like Willis definitely feels like he'll take time because obviously the offense he came from just seems like it's not as it's more basic or more I guess kind of trying to nice way to put it, but and Kenny Pickett feels like he's fairly fully formed, but I don't think he has a ceiling of a Willis or Corral. Corral, the main thing about him is, I think there is, to be fair to Lugs, I think the SEC, you look at the teams he played, he went against top-tier talent, and he was able to be successful. Now, obviously, the scheme they had allowed it, not obviously, but like his release is easily the best release of any of them. He has a fairly strong arm, and I know as much people think Willis is maybe the most athletic of them. I think Corral might actually be the most athletic of the three in terms of running. I mean, Corral ran for 614 yards in the SEC and 11 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's not just a slow guy. Now, I agree with what J-Boy said. I worry about his size and possibly that being his undoing. But I think from everything I've seen, he played 2 years relatively a high level in the SEC. I feel like he – not only in terms of possibly his upside, but also I think even his floor is better than Pickett because I just think he went against true guys that are going to play on Sunday where Pickett, at least last year in the ACC, I don't know how many guys are really playing at the next level or are developed to play at the next level that he played last year.
Yeah, and I think Matt Corral has a little bit of advantage in that. He was in the Lane Kiffin offense. Lane Kiffin and Pete Carroll go way back. So I'm thinking Lane Kiffin's probably talking to Pete Carroll. If Seattle decides they want to get a quarterback for the future, he may end up there. But obviously Seattle needs just a complete rebuild. So they'll probably just sit it out and use those picks for offensive and defensive linemen. But anyway, yeah, Matt Corral, he'll be around. He will. And maybe he'll end up with somewhere like Carolina or wherever. But I think he will be around. Also, I think Desmond Ridder has a shot.
Yeah.
I don't think he's seen a complex defense in his particular league, like, say, you would in the SEC to be ready for the NFL. But I do think that kid's one of those. I think he's sort of like Tom Brady in that he works. So I think that will be his advantage.
But I would say that Desmond Ritter's probably seen a better defense than Willis at Liberty. And it's also worth pointing out, mock drafts have Ritter in the top 10 and Bailey Zappi from WKU, Western Kentucky, top 10 as well. So kind of local nearby.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ritter. I think, he has over 40 wins, which you even hope that a guy coming out of college has 40 starts. So he has 40 wins. And to be fair to your point, like, anyone who's like, he doesn't play tough defenses. He scrimmaged against Charles Gardner, who's probably going to be the top corner in this draft. One of their safeties is probably going to go in the first day or second day. Kobe Bryant, different Kobe Bryant, obviously. But Kobe Bryant, he's a corner. He's going to get drafted. So there's like two corners he went up against regularly. He's a very good athlete. He was underrated as that. And supposedly in the interview, not surprising, in the interview part of, I guess, the offseason, he's killed it. So it's actually really elevated his stock. I guess the one guy I think is my dark horse is Carson Strong from Nevada. Last year, he wasn't fully healthy, so he didn't have as much mobility as he probably does, but he threw for over 4,000 yards, 36 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He's 6'4", 215.
Yep.
Lance Zierlein compares him to Drew Bledsoe. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter, but maybe he has a chance to be a top shelf backup. And who knows if he gets in the right spot, maybe he develops into a starter maybe 4 or 5 years down the road. But he's my dark horse.
I like it. Lugs, any other thoughts on that? Do you have a dark horse in the race?
Well, I said Matt Corral, but there, I think, like, say, the Kenny Pickett stuff, they were talking small hands and all this other stuff. It, let's be honest. Drew Brees did okay with small hands and being short. I think it's the guy that's committed to winning and doing what's necessary. I'm not that familiar with Pickett's work ethic. But anyway, that would be my last comment as far as the QBs go. The running backs.
Yes.
The two I like are Kenny Walker from Michigan State and James Cook at Georgia. I think they're sort of fire plug kind of guys. They're not that tall, but they are quick as all get out. And I think as scat backs in the NFL, I think both of those guys have a good shot. Who do you like, T?
Well, I just want to say, first off, I'm glad you brought up Kenneth Walker because I feel bad not talking about him. I will say this, Kenneth Walker, even though I don't have him as my main guy that I think will succeed, I think there's two guys who are top tier, the top two running backs, and Kenneth Walker is one of them. And the main thing that I'll give him that after watching a few of the running backs that he has over all of them, his horizontal cut to the move through trash and stuff is easily the best. And if you watch almost all his long runs, he gets a defender going one way and he does a jump cut, and all of a sudden he's off to the races and flying. Like, he was the best at that. But I think my favorite is a Breece Hall from Iowa State. He ran for over 14,000 yards, 20 rushing TDs. He had over 300 yards receiving. So, like, he is able to do both. He's a big guy, so he can pass block. I mean, he's 6'1", 220. And he carried the rock for the last 2 years. So he's definitely capable of being a workhorse back. He showed it for 2 years. And some people say, well, he also has wear and tear. Derrick Henry was a starter multiple years for Alabama. It, for the most part, until last year, didn't really affect him. Also, Jonathan Taylor with Colts. He's been very good, obviously early in his career with the Colts, and he was a workhorse for Wisconsin. So it hasn't really affected him. I just think when you watch him, you see the power, you see the speed. Obviously, I worry kind of about